Hey everybody, welcome to The Well. This is a show where we do what you do, and we're going to take you on that journey to see how we've developed our financial advisory practice as digital marketers turned financial advisors.
All right, Andrew. Welcome back. Episode 7, Season 2 of The Well.
7. Yep. We're firing all cylinders at this point.
Yes, we are. It's been busy.
Yeah.
Or do you feel busy?
I do. I feel good though. It's we were talking about the other day, a week or so ago. Like I feel like I'm in a good rhythm with things. There are a couple times where I'm like, man, I don't really love that I'm doing this evening appointment or whatever, but for the most part, I feel like I've settled into a good groove where I don't feel overwhelmed. That's how I feel at this point. It's busy, but not overwhelmed.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I don't feel overwhelmed. I do feel a level of pressure, mostly just because I'm studying for this dumb test. But yeah. I think for me, I'm not particularly like a fan of coordinating things in general. I'm the friend in the group that I'll go do the thing, but I don't want to like coordinate it with every friend and like don't really like that part. So I do find myself getting lost in the schedule of everything we have going on at RA and everything we have going on over here, and different, 2 different emails, 2 different CRMs, really 3, different phone systems, different processes, different employees, like different. Yeah. So it's been fun though. I agree. I feel motivated and pumped. It's been a good, solid start to this year.
Yeah.
Yesterday though, I went to get my hair cut, get my beard trimmed up. It was a new place, and I called to get a reservation. I know this is off topic. Bear with me. I called to get a reservation, and they're like, "Oh, we don't do reservations, only walk-ins." But I can't. Going back to what we just talked about, I can't do that because I needed to have a time because I had appointments, trying to go in between appointments. So I said, "Well, do you have an option for an appointment?" And they said, "Oh yeah, it's called the Top Man." So I said, "Okay, well yeah, I'll take a Top Man appointment." They're like, "Okay, what time?" I said 3:00 tomorrow. Okay, perfect. So scheduled it. I go up in there to this place, and it was a great place. But dude, I was in there ended up being like an hour and 15-minute appointment, and I got like a full on like face massage and like a cleansing, and then I'm sitting there with like steam on me with this like face mask on while they're like cutting my hair. It was like a straight up like
salon experience.
Yeah, like a spa.
Yeah.
Thing, and it was cool. The only thing that wasn't cool was the chair was really uncomfortable. I'm way too tall for that chair.
Yeah.
And I was like hanging off after my neck was like hurting and stuff like that. So I don't know if I'd go back to do it necessarily, but I was like, all right, a little spa day, a little relaxing thing for my my hair, my beard.
I get mine cut by Paul Corlew.
Yes, you do.
And he does a great job.
He does. He's
the price is right. Price is right. And we get to chat and hang out.
A little slap on the butt after, and
yeah,
that's
it's
it.
all good. So
yep.
You get your spa treatment, I get Paul's treatment.
Guess how much it costs though?
Way more than mine does.
What do you think? Just throw it out.
I'm gonna say $75.
Okay, north of that.
Wow, like 125?
North.
Oh, that's too much.
Dude,
that's
it was
way too much.
I think it was 100 and it was like 120, I think, for the service and then the tip.
Yeah, tip on top of it. Yeah, that's.
I was like, okay, well, I mean, fun, but I won't be doing this once a month.
Right. This is too much for once a month. Yeah. All right, so the focus of today's episode
is haircut styles,
haircuts and
beards.
Beards, yeah, not really. Crystal and I were talking about this, and she's like, you guys can talk about the things that you ask of your prospects and your clients, because sometimes it feels like, there's, when we're doing these seminars or webinars or whatever, we're giving. How do we get them to buy in? And so over the last year and a half or so, we've really learned, hey, there's some things that we have to be willing to ask of these folks, and they have to be willing to reciprocate and give to us in order for this to be a successful relationship, because we can't just go into it blind. We can't look at things in a vacuum. We have to have all the data. We have to have their buy-in to be able to make them a client. So that's really the idea of this whole episode, is like, hey, what are the things that we've learned over the last year and a half or a couple of years here of things we ask of our prospects and our clients that have made us see some success, and I think kind of bolster the relationships that we have with people.
Yeah, a really pretty clear sign of like experience is, day one, your very first seminar, you're confident because you're doing the seminar, but you're also kind of tiptoeing a little bit. You're being really polite. You're making sure you're kind of, but I think even us now, and probably in 10 years from now, we'll look back and be like, can't believe that's how we were. Yeah. But even now, we're much more bold. Like, it's like, hey, answer this question.
Right.
because I asked you to.
Right.
Like,
Hey, you have to be that bold. You
do,
got
yeah.
to. You can't, if you show any sign of weakness or lack of confidence in the way you're presenting a solution or your seminar presentation or asking for an appointment or whatever it is, they're going to sense that. And it's going to chip away at their confidence in whether or not they should work with you.
Very first seminar we did, I got some random question. I can't even tell you what it was. It's not something we would focus in, and put me right on the spot in front of the full table. And I just remember freezing the very first. It was literally our first launch event, and I was like, great question. I actually don't know. I'm not sure about that, which is okay now. I'll say that to people now, like with full confidence. I'm not sure. I'll get back to you at the first appointment. Totally fine. But back then I didn't have that confidence. I was like tiptoeing around.
Yeah.
So anyways, you got to realize for sure once you do it a couple times, like this is your show, this is your business, you know how to help people, and you got to own that stage.
Yeah, for sure. So what do we ask from prospects? We have a list of, 5 or 6 questions with some sub bullets here. The kind of one of the first things that we ask people to do is, and it's not on the list, but we ask them to fill out that blue sheet. That's probably the very first demand, if you will, that we make of people when they come to the seminar. Obviously they have to check in and they have to sign in and all that stuff, but that's pretty standard. And I like the way you've done it. I think we've talked about it on the podcast before, but the way you've done, and I think you've done it from day one pretty much, is have everybody pull out that blue sheet and make it a little uncomfortable.
Make them do it.
Yeah.
So the blue sheet for us is how we schedule our appointments. The front side is all like their contact info. As you scroll down that front side, there's basically a checkbox section of all the topics we're going to discuss, and we tell them, use this as your, as your journal during this thing. As that question pops in your mind, write it down. That stat, write it down. Whatever it is, write it. And then I have them flipped it to the back side. Well, actually, before that, I say, fill out the front part of this for me. Go ahead and do that. Spend a couple seconds, pull it out, fill it out. And that's where you're saying we just make them do it. I don't make excuses. I don't say anything. I just make them start filling it out. Because we need that. The blue sheet, we tell everybody we're going to collect it no matter what.
Right.
And that's ours. So I make them fill it out there, and then they turn it around to the backside, and that's where they schedule their part too. But
and it is awkward sometimes because you say, all right, fill the top for me, and Richie typically goes and grabs his coffee or his water and just bites his tongue, and I don't say anything. He doesn't say anything. We wait. It's sometimes as long as 30 seconds. It feels like anyway.
It does, and you can see it though. Some people will stare; they're not going to do it. But the more that I just awkwardly wait and I look, and you and I, we're surveying the crowd, we're making sure they're doing it. And as I make contact with somebody, eye contact, if they're not doing it, they almost always start doing it. They're not going to be on the spot and feel pressured. They're going to do it. Those are our blue sheets, and I need you to fill them out. Yeah,
and I think there's been a handful. I don't know how many hundreds of people we've had at seminars. Yeah. But there's been a handful where we didn't get their blue sheet back.
Probably didn't want it back.
Yeah, but if they're still resisting at that point, we don't probably want anything to do with it anyway. So I think most of the time, I'd say at least this year, I don't think there's a single seminar where we haven't gotten every single blue sheet back.
No, yeah, I would say so too. And there is a fine line. I feel compelled to talk about that just super briefly. There is a fine line between being a jerk and doing your job.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being confident and just being.
Well, that's kind of the whole point of this is we're not trying to be unkind. It's
right.
Hey, we're giving you this presentation. We're giving you this meal. We're giving you this experience, so to speak. All we're asking for in return.
Yeah, in exchange, there's
got to move a little bit. You can't, in any relationship, if one party is unwilling to move, the relationship's not going to work. No. So you don't have to move 50-50 necessarily. I mean, probably you should, but if they're not willing to move at all, it's not going to work.
And I'll say also, the more that you do that, especially up front in moments like that, you earn the respect of the audience so much better. They'll get, if they feel like they're in control more than you, I promise you it's not a good dynamic. It doesn't go well for you, and it doesn't go well on the part 2 and 3 and closing them as a client. The more that you are in control and they know that, the better positioned you are for the sale.
Yeah, I mean, it's confidence, right? I mean, we talk about that kind of thing with child rearing and dog training and all those kinds of things. If you portray a lack of confidence, that other party they'll
sniff it out.
They're going to sniff it out for sure. So that's the first thing we ask them to do. And the second thing, and you also asked this question, is holding your questions to the end.
Yeah, well, we have
part 2.
Right, it's literally the last kind of bullet point before we get into the teaching part of the seminar or webinar. And I just say, look, I hate putting this on there half the time, but I need to, because the fact is, in a room this size, if you throw out a really personal question to me, I can't answer it, because I don't know who you are. There's a fiduciary standard that PlanWise operates by. I can't just answer it just on a whim like that. So if it's a really personal question that's specific to you, most likely we're going to say schedule your part 2, and we'll spend the time we need there, all the time we need. That's your time, and we'll do it. We'll answer your questions, but you got to hold your questions. And then I have been starting the last few following that part up with, now I'm not saying to sit here quietly. I want you to engage with us and have an opinion, and that's okay. Have personality. I'm just saying, if it's like, should I do this at this age with my 401k? Like, I'm not going to answer that in this format.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's wise. Like to your point, like it's not appropriate for us to do that. We don't know them yet. And if we just throw out a random answer and they go and act on that and we didn't know all this other stuff, like we could get in trouble.
Yeah.
Like,
we're doing a disservice and we could get in trouble.
Yeah. So it's important that we position it that way. And like you said, well, general questions, if somebody's like, well, when could I file for Social Security? Well, I mean, here are the ages. Like I can tell you that,
right.
But I'm not going to tell you when you should. Like
right.
that
Part
would
2
be
and 3.
inappropriate. So the next thing that we actually moved to it, I think in the January event, we used to have on the blue sheet for seminars, we used to have in-person and virtual as an option. And we saw people taking the virtual option more often than was necessary. And so now it's become more of a, hey, we're not going to give it as an option. We're going to make them ask for it. And like we still do them, especially with webinars and even with some seminar people, but we ask for it to be in person. Especially, we'll do a lot. Not say we do a lot. We'll do some virtual part 2s, but part 3s, we especially say no. You got to come into the office for that.
Yeah, just like that too.
Yeah.
Even if they do a virtual part 2 and they're in the state, obviously if we're doing a webinar and they're
right.
Connecticut, like okay. Right. But if they're in our state of Indiana and they even do a virtual part 2, great. And then they want to schedule their virtual part 3, we have to have you come to the office for that.
Yeah. And it's an easy push, I think, for us. It's like, we're going to cover a lot of information.
Exactly.
You're going to have a lot of questions. You're going to take a lot of notes. Like, it's just so much easier if we can stop and have that, like the body language. I can read your body language. You can read mine. Like there's
from a salesmanship standpoint, it's critical we have them in there.
Yeah.
It's way too easy for them to
Yep.
like, okay, it's dinner time and I got to go and shut down their computer. We got to have them here.
Yep.
How long would you say your part 3 lasts? Just curious. What's your average?
It's probably right at an hour. It depends on, it depends if I take the app or not, honestly. Like
True.
So a really complex part 3, honestly, it usually goes a little faster because we're just going, like, it's high level. We're not doing any paperwork today. Like, I need you to buy into this concept more than anything. And so I know they're going to have a lot to chew on, a lot of questions. So those ones even go, like the one I have today, it's probably the most complex one I've ever done.
Yep.
And I think it'll probably go fast because I'm not going to get into the weeds on specific product or solutions or positions or anything like that. It's just going to be like, hey, you have to buy into this concept first. The ones that are simpler almost always go longer. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because we usually close the simpler ones much more quickly and we move on to the paperwork side of things. So some of those go long.
Let's do we're going to throw an episode on our part 2 and part 3 because I think there are just some critical things you've got to hit in those 2 appointments to be successful. And I just had a really lengthy conversation about part 3 with a guy who was totally doing it opposite than we were doing it and seeing a much lower closing ratio. And I walked him through some of the stuff that we were doing. So let's do an episode on that.
Yeah,
I think that
definitely should. And especially now that our close ratios are significantly higher than they once were.
Yeah, let's share the wealth on that.
Definitely need to do that. Another thing that we've tried to shy away from, we do them when we have to, but if we don't have to, we try not to, is evening appointments and weekend appointments. Evenings have turned out better in 2024 than they did in 2023. We've actually picked up a couple clients from evening appointments. So if it's somebody that's still working or they're a teacher and their schedule is just not conducive to a daytime appointment, I understand that. But what we're trying to push back on is the people treating us like a commodity. They come into it and say, well, they're going to work on my schedule. Right. And it's like, well, you got to think of us almost like a physician or a dentist or something. You generally are going to work on their schedule. If you need help, you're going to go when they're available, not when it jolly well suits you.
Right.
And that's not to say we're inflexible, but we don't just immediately cave to, oh yeah, we'll do 8:00 at night on Friday. Like, no, that's family time.
It's family time. That's our time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also house calls. I know some of you guys listening like to do house calls.
Yeah.
And that's something that you'll just do and you'll offer and all good. That's fine. We will go on occasion. We've done it.
I'm going on Tuesday.
Yep. I've got one next month. And actually I thought through that process better. And I know you Apple guy. Like if you're an Apple person, you probably there's other podcasts, like you should listen to that one. We're not Apple users here.
Don't listen to him.
I'm not an Apple user. Andrew is. But so I have this Samsung setup and it's the same thing, whatever. But I have a little tablet that I connected to my laptop, and I just swiveled the tablet to them so I could be on my computer, and it worked out so beautifully. It was just like being in the office, no problem.
Yeah.
So, anyways, if you're gonna go to the house calls, it's okay to have get yourself a little tablet and have that be their view.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're a paper kind of
Either way
person.
is possible, though. It's not.
Either way is possible.
Yeah, you can do it on Apple. You can do it on PC. It doesn't matter. The technology exists. It's 2024, guys. Like, use the technology that's going to make you better.
Absolutely.
And make it work. Yeah. So that's. I think the reason that we moved away from just being really, really open with our schedule was the stick ratio wasn't great.
Yeah.
And we had some evenings that didn't show, or we had some weekends that didn't show. We had a couple. The only times we've taken weekend appointments, I don't think they ever stuck. They canceled either the morning of or like the day before, and it's like we cleared our weekend calendar so we could meet with you on Saturday,
Yep,
and then you just didn't show. We haven't taken many of those, but we learned pretty quickly, like, hey, we don't want that. We don't want that. They don't. It's not a good fit for us.
Like you said, the nighttime ones are okay because that typically means they're still working.
Right.
If they're working and they're making a good income and there's something we can help them with, I don't mind the nighttime one, but
yeah, weekends are
no way,
no good. Okay. The other thing that's a really pretty recent change for us is we have a questionnaire. I think we've talked about the questionnaire before that we ask people to do after the seminar before their part 2. And up until probably 2 months ago, I talk about that at the seminar as part of like the next steps process. And I always said, this is it's painless. There's no personal identifying information on here. You can do it if you want to. You don't have to. I was really kind of just gentle about it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who I was talking to. I was talking to an agent, and he's like, how many people fill that out? And I'm like, maybe 10%.
Like that maybe.
And he's like, but when they do they show up? I'm like, yeah, they do. He's like, are those quality people? Yeah, they are. Make them do it, Andrew. And so the next seminar, we put it on the slide. This is required for part 2. And this is how we can, and so that's how I positioned it was, this is required when you schedule your part 2, and we understand not everybody's going to schedule a part 2, but if you schedule a part 2, you're going to do this. This is how we confirm you for part 2. And, if you can't figure it out or if you need help with it, Chris will help you, blah, 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 blah. But this is required. Now, between you and me, if somebody doesn't do it, are we not going to sit in that appointment? No, we're still probably going to take the appointment. But we put a super strong emphasis on it now. And guess what? Most of the time, they do it. And most of the time, they stick. And the appointment stick ratio has been far better in 2024 than it was in 2023. We would probably lose 30-40% last year. Yep. Maybe not that high, but it was. It was pretty high.
Yeah.
This year, we've had a few no-shows, but not many. Mostly on the webinars, I would say.
Mostly webinars. I think I've only had 2 no-shows this year.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like no-call, no-shows.
I don't think I've had any total no-call, no-shows. I've had a few that like rescheduled last minute, which is always frustrating, but it happens. But since we've implemented that for sure, it's dropped off.
Night and day, especially a seminar. Yeah. I think my no-shows I'm pretty sure they've both been webinars.
Yeah, and we can't really do it in that context.
Can't do it there.
We do have a truncated version of it that they have to fill out to schedule the appointment, but it's a different environment. So.
It's just a different animal. But for seminars, having them fill that out has definitely moved the needle.
Yeah,
it's required. We put it in red on the presentation. Like you have to do this to come. It's what confirms you.
Yep.
And when they do that, we can prepare a little bit more.
Yeah.
We've got their birthday now, for instance. Like we've got if they have kids, like their marital status.
Social security information sometimes. Not their number.
Yeah, social security number, blood type. Like.
But yeah, it's really been helpful. Like they have pension. Like those are the things that we need to know anyway, and we're going to ask even if they don't fill it out. But it just makes it a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
And some of those, now they're sharing information with us. We've given 95% in this relationship. We've given everything. We've given our time. We've given food. We've literally spent money on this. We're only asking for a little bit in return.
Yeah, and not much, just a little bit of time.
Yeah.
My typical part 2 averages. I always tell them when I'm we go through the slides in the beginning and we go through what we're going to do, the agenda. I always tell them, today's appointment will last between 30 minutes and an hour, and the spread there is really up to you. It's what questions do you have, what are we diving into, and that kind of thing. So I'm usually, I would say about 45, probably right under an hour. I would say average.
I'm probably right at an hour. I chat a lot more probably than you do.
Yeah.
I don't know that for sure because we're not doing our appointments together anymore.
Yep.
Which has been great, by the way. We started off doing all the appointments together, and I think we needed that.
We did need that.
But now we've both gotten really confident with the process, and we have different styles. And often when we were running appointments together, my style would step on his or vice versa, and it was just like, this is a little awkward and uncomfortable. And I think that was sensed sometimes.
For
So
sure.
probably that's helped with our close ratio too.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. You're because you would see a avenue like a hallway that's going to work for you, and it probably would work. And I would see one completely different that probably would work for me, but we're both trying to go down this different path.
right.
And it's like we're not converging. So now that we can just do our own,
Yep.
hallway, yeah, for sure works.
Worked out well. Let's see. Next one. Oh, this is a good one. Ask like crazy during the first one-on-one appointment and write everything down verbatim.
Good transition there. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Just in my opinion, this, and again, I'm interested to hear yours because it's probably different. I don't know, but for me, my goal is to only talk like 30% of that meeting, maybe somewhere in there. Like I'm going to talk in the beginning more because I'm going to set the tone and I'll go through the agenda. But then after that, I just want my talking to be asking the questions and getting out of the way. I want to ask enough question in such a way that they just word vomit everything and I'm not talking. So we have a whole appointment worksheet that we've built. It's like 2.5 pages, I think, and written questions, probably 20 questions that we ask, philosophical in there, kind of goals, everything from, do you have money in the market to what do you want to buy in retirement? What's important to you? Like all these different things in there. And then we do household items, and then we do numbers after that. And then we do a quiz, and then we schedule the part 3.
Yeah. I think the key to that, though, is what you said here in this note. Write everything down verbatim. You'll leverage that in part 3.
Boom. Yeah.
That's been critical because we've talked about it before, I'm sure, but like using their words, the way they phrased things, that's key because now you're not selling, you're just basically aligning with what they want. You're using their words, not against them, but with them to say, listen, this is what you told me you wanted in your words. You said you wanted Mary to get the car, like, use their kids' names, use, their goals that, if they have pets, leverage that into it. Like just use everything they say as a part of the true sales presentation because they'll connect with it a lot more. If you start using financial speak at them and, talking in a different language, that's not going to resonate with most people.
Yeah. Don't do that. Use their words. If they say, I just want to be, what do you want to do in retirement? If they say, oh, man, I just want to be joyful and go on walks. Okay. Then in part 3, I'm going to say, be joyful, go on walks. Right. And they'll recall it because they said it.
Yeah.
So it's super key to do that. It can't be in your words. It's not what you want. It's what they want. And that's the whole business should be that anyways. Yeah. So use what they want, put it in that part 3, game changer.
Yeah. Side note, I'm gonna give it a plug because I've started using it yesterday and it was amazing. There's a software called Fathom. Ethan turned me on to it.
Okay.
It's an AI tool that if you're doing a virtual meeting, it attends as a guest, I guess is how it works, and it just listens and transcribes the entire meeting, and that's cool in and of itself.
I think it's cool. But
the really cool thing is it summarizes the meeting into action items, topics discussed, and it breaks it down into an easy to digest format. And you can go back and say, oh, they were, in this summary, it was talking about their financial assets. I don't remember exactly what they said they had. So you can literally click on it and it takes you back to that part of the meeting and you can read through what they said to you and what you said back to them. And it's just been, I've only used it, well, I used it once, used it another time with Ethan, and I was just blown away by it. You do have to obviously disclose that you're recording them and their conversation. I did have one lady get, she thought that the AI was listening to her and was going to deep fake her. So I did have to turn it off for that one, but just kind of a neat tool, to again use the words that they say to make part 3 that much more personal for them.
I'm interested to try that. I haven't tried it yet, but I am eager to because I've told it to you a few times. I don't know if it's something that I think I just like, or if it's something that I think will make me more efficient. But the way you describe it, I think it can't hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, recalling exactly what they said.
Right.
And it's not just on memory because we can mess stuff up how you remember things. So also I'm kind of notorious is like I'll finish my appointment, but then I have, a hair spa to go to right after or whatever. And I don't write my note right away. So then it's like now I spent, inordinate amount of time at the hair place, and now I got to go home and try to recall what I did on my appointment. Yeah. So it would be nice for something like that too.
Yeah, it's super handy, and I'm looking forward to try it again. Yeah. And just seeing our industry is a little different. I don't think it may not be as readily accepted by folks that are in their 50s and 60s. So we may have some pushback there. But for those that accept it, I think it's a great tool. And yeah, we'll keep giving it a try.
Keep trying. I'd love to report back.
Yeah. Let's see. Asking for prospects to ask Richy and Andrew if they have questions about part 3. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. So after our part 3, this is how I do it. I don't know if you're doing it the same way or not, but at the very end, if they haven't said yes, if they're like, hey, I got to think about it or, sleep on it or whatever, I always say, okay, my only request to you at this point is if you have questions about what I've presented to you today, you ask me those questions. Because if you take it to your brother-in-law or to your other financial advisor, nobody knows this presentation like in the recommendations the way I do, because I built it for you. And of course, they're going to find things that they don't like about it. So all I'm asking for is another opportunity to explain whatever, to answer any questions you may have. Like, feel free to ask other people. That's fine. But give me one last at-bat to explain what I'm recommending here. And I don't know how much that's moved the needle for us, but I think they respect it. I literally say to these people, don't ghost me. That's my only request. Don't ghost me. Like, if you don't want to do it, fine. Like, just tell me, tell me why, but don't ghost me. And I literally say those words to people. And so far, I haven't been ghosted after part 3 is when I started doing that.
Yeah.
I do get no's occasionally.
Yeah,
like, people still say
those.
no, but
Yep.
they at least give me an explanation.
Yeah, I'm very similar. The thing about the 3-part process is after, part 2, there's a part 3. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a thing that you schedule and you're coming back for the part 3. If you don't close them in the part 3, which it doesn't always happen on that first. It depends on the buyer, the investor. But if you don't, and they say, let me think about it or let me whatever else, if you don't, you can't always just schedule next week another appointment.
Right.
They don't always want to do that, or it doesn't line up or whatever it is. So the risk there is they go home and, like you're saying, they talk to whoever and they, whatever it is, and you never hear back from them.
Right.
Or if you do, it's, hey, I'm not interested. But okay, so before you get to that point, essentially what you're telling them is before you get to that point, just let me know.
Right. So
you can keep helping them out. But so you do that same thing. I say something very similar to don't ghost me. Just all I'm asking for you to do right now is think through this stuff, and I'm gonna text you. I like to text a lot. It's been super good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna text you and follow up with that in 2 days. Is that good? So I will kind of set a follow up. Still, but and all I say is just let me know if anything comes up, any questions, anything on this plan. All I'm asking is you let me know. I think you said it, or somebody, I think it was an agent early last year told us, like, you can't get a second opinion from somebody who gave you the first,
right?
Or you can't get
no. That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. So if they have an advisor who hasn't helped them with this stuff, and they come to us and we do, you can't take hours back to that first guy. He could have been doing it the whole time and he wasn't.
Right.
And he's just going to try to win your business. Like, at that point, his motives aren't in alignment with you like ours are.
Right.
So I'll sometimes describe that. Depends on the situation, but that's another one.
Yeah, and I think it's also a little bit of a matter of respect. Like, hey, and we allude to it. Like, we've spent literal hours on this. Mm-hmm. At least give me the time of day to tell me yes or no. Like,
right.
don't ghost me. That's all I'm asking for return. Just treat me with a little bit of respect, because I've spent hours on this, and we're very professional and courteous about it. I'm not being rude to them, but just kind of expecting that. Like, I'm asking you to just give me one last opportunity to talk to you, even if it's a no. And I understand that. I don't say that. I don't give them that out, but that's the implication or the inference. I'm not sure which one.
The other thing that just hit me, just kind of off topic, but along the same vein, is at the end of the part 2, when I have gone through and asked them all the questions and done all the thing, I always say, like, I don't know. We scheduled the part 3, and as I'm scheduling it, I'll say, like, hey, while I'm pulling this up and we're getting this going, like, I don't know that we'll have a recommendation for you in part 3 yet. I won't know that until we dive into everything. Mm-hmm. But if I do have one, are you open to working with? Is there any reason you wouldn't go with what we recommend? Mm-hmm. And that's been really, really good too, because I don't think I've ever had anybody tell me no. I've had somebody say, well, if it's if it's good, I would. Or most of the time they say, yeah, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. So then when you get to the part 3 and now you're asking them, it's just getting these little yeses, and that's helped. And it was just a random thought, but that's helped the part 3s a lot too.
Yeah, I do something similar there. I at the very end, I said, before we schedule your part 3, I just want one last question. This is a personal question. And they're like, oh boy, what's going on?
Uh-oh.
I'm like, is there anything that you've heard from Richy or myself at the seminar or the webinar, or anything that I've talked about today that is a red flag to you that would prohibit you from moving forward with us if we present a solution that is compelling? And I've not had one person say, oh yeah, here's a red flag.
Well, Richy, I'm not.
Richy, I can't stand
because of that guy.
So it's kind of a similar idea. It's like, hey, look, I'm asking you a personal question because I want to know.
Yep.
And I have had one person come back, well, my brother does, he's in investments.
Which is nice that you found that out right there.
Right. So, okay, well, do we have any opportunity here?
Yep.
And I think if you get that kind of answer, well, my brother-in-law does this or my uncle or whatever. Well, okay, do we have, if I show you something compelling, are you willing to work with me or not?
Right.
And I pretty boldly will say that kind of thing.
And you should.
And if they say, honestly, Andrew, no. Okay, great. You know what? If there's anything you need from us or if you know of anybody that could use our services, we'd be happy to go forward. But, I don't want to spend, my chair started moving. I pushed the button. Push the button.
Just kick back for the next episode.
Yeah, we just, it's one of those things. I think just asking them to respect our time it's a totally valid request.
It is, absolutely. You're not rude for asking that. And they don't want their time mistreated either. So right. it's the same thing, but ask that at that appointment. It's so key for your part 3s.
Yep. All right, last couple real quick, and they kind of go hand in hand. Whenever we do get a new client, first thing we do after the app is signed is we say, hey, let's get a picture.
Get that
selfie. We've had a couple people push back. Well, I didn't do my hair today, or I didn't wear, I didn't know you were going to be taking a picture, so we have to get it at delivery or something like that. But ask for that picture. Like get that credibility and that. I think it was George that said it. Like get as many pictures with your clients as you can because that is proof that you're working with people and helping people. Yeah. And you won't have. And since we've been doing that and posting those pictures, we've had far fewer people asking for references.
Yeah, proof's in the pudding. I mean, when you're first starting out, you don't have that, and you're trying to build it. Well, once you build it, use it. I mean, you got to be. It makes me feel a lot better if I know you're helping other people.
Right.
So for sure, get that everywhere. And I think the only person I can remember that said no was Mike, and then he ended up coming back all dressed up, and you got the picture. So he was happy to do it. He just didn't want to do it, right then. But we'll literally just get your camera out. And the problem with me is funny because almost everybody I work with is shorter than me, almost always. And so I have to really crouch down next to them to get it. So I always look like I'm hunched over, but it's just a selfie and you just put it up there and we put it on Facebook or we put it on, different things.
I had a problem that I wore the same shirt 2 appointments in a row.
Oh yeah.
So looked like I did it at the same time.
There was a day in the early times where we went, I think to 4 different clients in the same day. Yeah. And we had the same shirt on and all the pictures like, whoa, it's the same day. Leave me alone.
It happens.
I have other shirts.
And the last thing we ask people to do is embrace the family vibe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't want a sales ship. We want a partnership. We want a relationship. Yeah. We hit on that pretty hard throughout the process. Give us a chance. Text me. I want my clients to text me. I want you to call me. I want to not just send you a birthday card automatically. I want to take you out to lunch on your birthday. Yeah. I want to have a relationship with you.
Yeah. And we will call and we will text and we will schedule lunches and we will get together. And as with any family, we will ask for referrals. We're going to, hey, if we did good by you, who else do you know? I mean, stuff like that is key. So we asked them to embrace that. And so far it's been a handful that haven't, but for the most part, once we bring them on as a client or a customer, they are part of the family and we treat them as such and they treat us as such.
Yep. So. And they're starting to just naturally, hey, can you help my son? I've been getting that recently. Can you help, this person or that person or my parents or whatever? We're starting to get that too because we're invested. We care. I mean, it's a natural thing to ask who else can you help in my life? And we say, yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we can.
Yeah. So what we got on feet today there, Rich?
Man, these are, I think they're called Cool Mints. Yeah. Jordan 3s. I put the mint laces in there.
Solid. That's a good Easter shoe.
Yeah, that's a good call. Probably wear these Easter, but yeah, these are good, man. 4s are my favorite. I'm well documented. 4s are my favorite, but I think 3s are probably the most comfortable Jordan.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, ones are decent to me too because I don't lace them very tight. But Jordan 3s are just something about it.
Yeah, so. I like the look of the ones the best. The comfort of the I like the looks of the 4s. I hate that they hurt my feet. Yep. The 3s are without question. They're like slippers.
They're so good,
so comfy. But these are. I don't think I've worn these. This is the first pair I ever designed myself, and I got a little wild with all the different options. So when I first got them, I was like, man, these are awesome. They're killer. Like I designed them. I like them. They're a little too busy though. I regret not keeping it simpler. But yeah, I designed everything about these. The swoosh is like I think it's called Varsity Red, and it's kind of like a satiny thing. And then, wolf gray on the toe and the tongue, and the gum sole. That's the one thing I definitely wanted was a gum sole, because at that time I didn't have anything with a gum sole.
Yep.
And I really like that. So these are designed by me. Nike's by Andrew. And
maybe we put them up for auction.
Maybe someday, maybe they'll be worth something. But
well, if you sign it, it would be worth something.
Yeah, just yeah. I don't know.
One lucky listener.
Okay.
He can buy.
I'm not giving away my shoes. I've already done that once. I'm not doing it again. But anyway, yeah, I like them, but not my favorite. But I like them.
Good deal. All right, well, that's a wrap on 7. So we'll be back. Episode 8. I'm trying to think when they'd listen to that. It's probably going to be April or May.
Yeah, probably.
Before you listen to that, but we're getting through it. It's been a great year. I know it's been a great year for you guys. Keep it up. Keep that hustle going. Take care of your health. Take care of yourself. But man, what a time to be alive.
That's right.
God bless America.
Election year, baby.
Yep. Let's go.
All right. Thanks, guys.